Today's show is brought to you by Audible. Audible is offering our listeners a free audiobook with a 30-day trial membership. Just go to audibletrial.com/beat and browse the unmatched selection of audio programs. Download a title free and start listening. It's that easy. Go to audibletrial.com/BEAT. Folks and the folks, what's going on? Welcome back. Another quarantine edition of Back to Classics, the cinematic movie podcast that takes you back to the iconic films of 20 years ago. I'm your guy, Jay Alonzo. With me, of course, is
Danger Neff. David Danger Neff. What's going on, partner?
Yo, it's crazy. Like, as I was really preparing to do the opening monologue, I was like, I'm gonna really project. I'm on my phone, sitting on the floor in my living room. Nah, I think I'm gonna just kind of keep it cool.
No, I'm just out here with my dogs, just hanging out with my dogs. My one dog's going crazy right now because I think he just saw a fly or something, and he hates flies. So he's about to tear some shit up here in a second.
Right on. I'm good, man. Just kicking back. I just had a FaceTime conversation with my dad and my two uncles in London, which was the most random thing because we were supposed to start doing the show like a half hour ago. Right. But as I'm outside prepping for get my notes together, my dad calls me and I got like a little WhatsApp conversation with my two uncles from London who I've been talking to them forever. So that was cool. Besides that, though, man, same shit from the last episode. Kind of just kicking back, working on some stuff. Yeah, we're still putting together to enjoy life.
So we went through a real quick. I want to give a special shout out to mi prima Irene, who celebrates 40 years. On this beautiful planet of ours. So happy birthday, Irene. I hope you get to see this. And I love you very much. And I can't wait to see you next year. It's funny with everything that's, going on, all the things that you kind of find yourself like falling into and whatnot. I plugged in like my PSVR yesterday. That was really cool, and started swinging around a controller like I was going crazy. But it's kind of nice to be a little bit reconnected to a slower time in life, as opposed to speeding through.
And the thing is, like, I ordered a laptop and a PlayStation 4, and I'm checking for it daily, like. For me? No, not for me. I can wait. No, not for me. That's cool.
You're like dogs that's just waiting by the window for the delivery guy.
I mean, you are waiting, you know what I'm saying? But at the same time, it's like, when we're so busy with everything that we do on a daily basis, when you've ordered something in advance and it takes a while to get to you, you don't even realize that it's been this amount of time has already, accumulated since you ordered this particular thing. And it finally just showed up one day. Like, I forgot about that. But when you are waiting for something and you just have nothing to do but wait on something, you look like a dog looking for that. Bill Nye.
Especially with Amazon, obviously they're doing their part and trying to support our first responders and everybody with that. Which again, special shout out to you guys. Thank you guys.
Thank you, first responders, once again for everything that you do. You guys are awesome.
Amazon, it's funny because, you pay for Amazon Prime and it's like, okay, no, I want my 2-day shipping. Next thing I know, they'll like deliver something like 7, 8, or 9 days later. And I'm like, oh yeah, no, I totally forgot that. I'm
about that.
By the way, special shout out to our new Instagram followers and a special shout out also to Skylar. We have officially passed 300.
300.
So thank you guys so much for all the love and support. If you haven't went ahead and subscribed to our Instagram, BTTC podcast, please make sure that you guys are checking us out and hitting us up, as well as hitting up my man's IG at IMJ Alonzo, and of course myself at David Danger Neff. Please make sure you're following us as we are supposedly giving new stuff. I really
You
like this.
mentioned.
I really like this thing that we did with 2 minute drill.
I'm about to say, yeah, mention 2 minute drill live on our little test run.
So our little test run that we had there was, let's just say, it was a sweep. Like it was pure domination from this guy here. I had to flex a little bit, to kind
Wait a
of
second, because
remind
now
everybody.
listen, real quick. You're only saying it like that because if I explain, if it was my version on how the test went, I'm like, so listen, we had a great time. A lot of it was some bullshit, but
What?
but
Okay,
I don't want
what's
to say
your explanation?
no. It's cool. It's cool. It's cool. We had a great time. You keep going. You keep going.
We had this whole thing on Will Smith movies, and I was just pulling shit out of my ass after a while. I was like, he was in this fucking movie in like 1998. He was
He
a
mentioned this movie. I have no idea what the fuck you were talking about. I'm like, what? Looked it up. I'm like,
literally everybody paused and they were like, "What?" I was like,
no, you know what it is? When you hear an off answer, it's like, and everybody had that one face like,
because everybody was silent. Oh, I loved it. I loved every minute. And even Los was like, I got to check that answer real quick.
yeah.
For whatever reason, they gave Jay. They were like, all right, well, we're going to do these categories, right? And I'm like, okay. And for like these one-on-ones, and it's going to be great. I'm really excited for you guys next Thursday, for those who are participating, because this is going to be a lot of stupidity and a lot of fun.
Wait, so I didn't even know this. This is the show that I'm hosting. So next Thursday is when we're doing this.
Yeah, it should be. I thought it was next Thursday is when we talked.
All right. So you've heard now. You've seen it now. 2 minute drill live next Thursday. I can't wait. Above all else, like you knew the Osborne Day's favorite because he was able to get certain categories that were almost like clean sweeps. And then, like you said, he's pulling shot his ass. Like, he pulled out a movie I had absolutely no idea.
They gave Jay like
I
a
got no, listen.
I
I
was like
got
an
Oscars.
Oscar goes to, and I'm like, oh, this is brutal. I was like, oh, because we even do an Oscar live show, but then of course, like it was like this was the who was the director who was most nominated for an Oscar and did not win. And like I'm sitting there and I'm like, it's John Ford. And like Jay was like throwing people out. They're like, I don't even know who John Ford is. And I'm like, yeah, he like made John Wayne, but that's okay.
I'm like, I think that's a question that Dave wrote. Had to be a question that fucking Dave wrote. Had to be. Had to be.
But I'm not trying to put in the bullshit questions that we used to do to each other. Not
No, but like, who played Henry the Fifth? How the fuck should I know? But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But furthermore, though, I am super excited to do this show next week, man. It's been the primary focus of all of Beat, which is and very very cool that they put so much time and effort. Los and Skylar and the test run. Rachel's on the test run with us, so that was really cool. So shout out to Rachel, shout out to Skylar for being part of that test run, and I'm looking forward to it, man. I think once we unleash this beast out there, people are gonna really catch on to it really quickly. So
I think so.
next Thursday, 2 minute drill live next Thursday.
So some movie news, and probably the only movie news that we have. Obviously, stuff is getting further delayed, and the truth is that there's we could bitch and moan about that, but we kind of knew this was coming. What hasn't been delayed though, and what is very interesting, is Christopher Nolan's Tenet, which is supposed to release July 17th of 2020. Could be
that's birthday time for
that's
Neff.
right. It's right around my birthday. It's the day before, actually. Is supposed to be released, and they're not moving it. They're kind of standing fast there. What do you think about that?
Well, we talked about it before we got on air. They are the only big tentpole film of the summer. Not the only one of the summer, but the one that's still holding its position of where it was supposed to be from jump. And the
Right.
reason why is because either they have intel or they just have a firm belief in people getting better or whatever the case may be that movie theaters will be open by this time. And while I'm thoroughly looking forward to seeing Tenet for sure, um, you have to kind of look at the odds of they could drop in July. They can still drop in July with the new whatever new safety guidelines are in place for these movie theaters now. If they drop in July, they'll be the only huge tentpole film that is out in the summertime. You can actually go to theaters and watch it. They may take every screen at every theater.
Mm-hmm.
So regardless, they're gonna win. So, or the flip side is if you have to move dates, where do you go? You know what I'm saying? Because we talked about it. December is heavy. Um, Christmas, you mentioned, you go up against Top Gun Maverick, which is probably not the best idea. And then you have, I believe Soul is still set for. No, Soul moved to
Oh,
November.
no. It got no that Soul's not being released.
You sure? I think it moved to November.
No, they literally said that they don't have a release schedule for it right now.
Wow.
Yeah.
It'll go to Disney Plus.
I don't know about that. I think it will find a way to kind of get in there because I think Disney is going to figure something out. Because God, I hope so because they're hurt. I've never seen a company that looks so dominant at one point to just suddenly a virus just destroys them. Like other than Disney, and mind you, I work for casinos, so I know how bad it is for us. But for Disney, oh my God,
they're hurting.
Netflix right now is worth more than Disney. Netflix is worth more than Disney. Yes, there's a correlation between the two, obviously, but that's just insane to think about. On those thoughts on Tenet, though, no, you bring up a good point. You got to find a good release window. Obviously, you got to find an area where you're taking risk, regardless. You're the risk of okay, well, people should have their money, come July, even though right now it's July 17th. I'm almost curious if it would be a little bit smarter just to push it back, to like mid-August, right before kids start going back to school. You have something for them to kind of talk about and whatnot. But at the same time, you need something for people to kind of want to watch. And to be honest, with no kids movies that are dropping in the summer, you got to find a way to get the kids out of the house this summer any which way you can. So I don't know. I think it's a calculated risk. But it's definitely a major risk in my eyes.
I also would add in the possibilities of, let's say by the time July rolls around and everybody's back open again and we've whatever, we still got what, another month and 2 weeks before you really begin to see some real good ramping up. Actually, I'll take it back. If they're keeping forward with their release date, then we should see some marketing for it quite soon, because they want to push. They're going to push this for at least 2 months before it sees a lot of that.
I
Now,
mean,
with that being
kind of has to. Yeah, I agree with you.
yeah, this is now your rollout phase now. Now, with that being said, though, you also have to look at the fact that by the time movie theaters do reopen around this time, you're going to have a set of guidelines as far as your theater patrons and yada yada yada, which may result in you even lowering the price of people to even come to the movie. So
Right.
when you and that's just really to entice people to come back, because you have a lot of people out there who really feel like they won't see another movie theater until next year, because I'm kind of good. But furthermore, but you have this movie coming out. You normally charge $13, $14 a ticket. You reduce the price. So you set the guidelines for everybody. And guaranteed safety, like every other seat or every 2 seats, whatever the case may be. You set those guidelines up, and then it's the only movie that's dropping around this time, that's a huge tentpole, and it's summertime, da da da. You can still completely win. You can still win that.
You could, but on those safety guidelines, like you have to keep in mind on a couple of things. Like you're gonna have people. First of all, nobody watches a movie alone, right? So because nobody watches a movie alone, you have to assume.
Well, I do.
Well, okay, but you're a creep. So I'm just kidding. But nobody. They don't bank on audiences to watch movies alone, and it's almost one of those things where it's like, okay, so what do you really do? Are you going to have because what people have families, right? And then they invite their friends, right? So next thing you know, you have a row of like 5, 6, 7, 8 people. Are you going to put them all together, or are you going to actually space them out? And if you do space them out, then what are you expected for your occupancy rates at that? Do you only open up 50% of the seats? Do you make sure that everybody is, like you said, spaced out every other seat or every 2 seats? That's something that I think Nolan really needs to consider here, where it's like, okay, let's say I do get the bank, I do get the ball. The production budget on Tenet has to be at least $75 million, if not more, because of all the special effects that they're doing. Actually,
not to mention, I think it's like
the budget right now is $205 million. You're meaning to tell me, with 50% occupancy from theaters worldwide, you're going to break that? That's very difficult to pull off.
but if it's the only movie, let's say you got a 12-screen movie, a 12-screen theater, you put every single screen is Tenet, and that's really because you don't have the space to fill your 50% occupancy. So you run it, you keep running that shit.
You could.
You feel what I'm saying?
But I also don't think that. I don't think movie theaters have to give an option, and it was something that they talked about when they were talking about this coming back plan, where it's like AMC is planning to come back end of July, and they did say the words end of July. So first of all, that already misses the Tenet release unless Tenet pushes back, which I think probably should happen now, at least first week of August. You know, you could still get the bag from everybody that's been locked up, you know, but you at least give AMC something to release and have safety standards out there. 2, you have to consider that you know, people, that this is not, if it's a kids movie, that's a different ball game. A kids movie, people go see kids movies because it's summer and kids are at home. Kids don't sit through Christopher Nolan films unless it's a superhero film. You can't ask a kid, tell me the plot of Interstellar, you know, because first of all, they're going to be bored at it because they don't understand it.
You can't ask too many adults to me the plot Interstellar. I really can't tell you the plot. I mean, I can, but it takes a while to explain.
Fair enough. But that's what I'm saying. Like, that's just one
film. This we've already talked about
in previous episodes, that this could be similar to what Inception is. Try to explain Inception to somebody within 3 sentences, and it gets incredibly difficult. It's a heist movie in dreams. Leonardo DiCaprio, there's a subplot about his wife who just keeps haunting him as a memory. You see, that's already convoluted, and I am actually hitting story points in this movie. You know,
it's a heist movie about dreams.
Heist movie about dreams with a convoluted backstory, with a convoluted reason, you know, and with an ending that is controversial. It's still a great movie, but it's controversial, you know.
So, the ending is like,
it's not that I don't think. What I'm more concerned about is them trying to make back their budget, you know, because let's say they do just make back their budget. Then do you call it a flop, or do you call it a success because of the standard, because of what's going on? And that's a risk that Warner Brothers is going to have. That's a $200 million risk that Warner Brothers has to consider.
And I think that's for that 205 million is the reason why they can't move. I mean, granted, if you got to move, you have to move, but at the same time, I'll even tell you if they do move that week of August, if it's safe to go back and yada yada, then we can go from there. But I would tell you their window, if it's not going to be in this July, August, September, at the very latest September window, you're looking at next year, easily next year.
I agree. But when you think also about a movie that needs to break even, because projections are, if I'm not mistaken, and now I'm just going to act like a finance nerd. If I'm not mistaken, you basically have to double or at least do 2.5 times the amount, or 2.5 times the amount of your actual budget to break even. So that means in theory, to break even with this, they have to make 450 to 500 million off it. I don't think that's possible. I
Well,
don't.
not anymore now because don't forget, Nolan is typically a guaranteed billion. So, like before all this went down, Christopher Nolan was definitely a guaranteed. Tenet was a guaranteed billion off of it. But now that we're in, like you said before, let's say it actually makes back its budget. It may not be the 400, but you make back say 210, 220, and your budget was 205. In this climate, you can't call that a flop. You can't consider that a flop. No way.
I don't know. I think that's difficult. I don't think that.
Because then you have to look into, or how much are you going to sink in for promo, or are you going to really let the fact that people can now go back to the movies and there's a Christopher Nolan movie that's out playing on every screen right now. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
All right. It sounds crazy.
Let's move on to my last little bit of news, and this is more local news. The West Wind Drive-In Theater is officially opened back up. It's a drive-in theater. You have to stay in your car. There's no snacks that are available. You have to park 10 feet apart, which is basically every other parking space. I think it's a good move. I think for the most part you're relatively safe in this, but I also don't know how else they could actually pull this off. But I'm glad that they're actually giving the option for people to find a way to be interactive while staying safe as possible.
I agree. When I heard the news that they had closed, I was like, no, what? No, I thought they really had a good shot. And I think the way they was doing it already was pretty safe, if you ask me. Because number one, I'm in my car, so how much more safe can I be? But I don't believe the concession was open. I think the concession was closed, so you can literally pull up, go to the movie, go home. Now, as far as now, I know they have the thing about the bathroom in there now has to be one person at a time. Obviously, you have if you got a little kid with you, that's different, but one person at a time at the bathroom. So then again, but I've been to that drive-in hundreds of times, so it's almost like I've never seen that bathroom get overly crowded. Maybe 3-4 guys at a time, but at the same time, it's never like you got to wait for the bathroom. You know what I mean?
If they're smart,
not much of a difference.
If they're smart, they'd hire porta potties.
That is true too, but that's how you really get these germs.
Yeah,
germs.
But it also gives people the chance.
Right.
You need to use the bathroom. This is your opportunity to use the bathroom.
Right. Exactly. So
you're the one taking your own risk. Here is whatever. You can put the cover on the toilet seat and whatnot. Have the sinks outside, something like that. I don't know.
But it's very rare though. If you go to a drive-in, how often do you have to like during the movie? How often do you jump out and go to the bathroom?
I mean, I don't have a medical condition for it, so not really.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, once the movie's on, I'm there. So,
I mean, I'm sure some other people will find a way to go squat in a bush or something. Not to be gross or anything, but you know,
now,
I don't really think they're going to enforce that too hard.
right. Well, I also feel like, as far as the actual parking of it all, keeping it 10 feet apart and all that jazz. I mean, that's fine. I mean, you're kind of missing out on other cars because, once again, I'm already in my confined area, my car. So therefore, unless I'm getting out the same, if I'm getting out of my driver's side door, and the person next to me is getting out their driver's side door, the biggest risk is we're getting out the car at the same time.
Right.
Or one of us could just sit there for a second, let that person leave, and I get out the car.
Right.
So as far as like the actual parking of it all, 10 feet, I think, is a bit abrasive, but because I'm already in a confined area, I'm in my car. So
I think that that's a liability thing in my eyes. I think
no, it is. It is.
I think they're just saying, you know what, 10 feet. You know, I know the rule is 6 feet. What's a few extra feet? You know, that's where
They're being extra safe. Cool.
yeah. Why not? You know what? I'll take that any day. You know, because you got a toddler or something, they running around and whatnot. You know, people get dumb, of course. You know, and people are going to be so excited about this.
Especially up there. I've seen kids outside the car running around going nuts just as the movie's going. You know what I mean?
Exactly. So that's another thing where it's going to be like, is this really necessary? Is this something that we want to do? I don't know. These are the same people that will probably, have like Clorox chewables or whatever.
Clorox chewables. Let's get to today's movie, man. So, the movie that we're doing today.
This is one of my personal favorite movies.
This is Dave's personal favorite. I'm gonna openly admit to you, today was my very first time ever watching this movie. I've never had an interest. I liked it, and we'll get to reasons why. With that being said, Ready to Rumble, original release date April 5th of 2000, shares opening weekend with Joe Gould's Secret, Return to Me, and Rules of Engagement.
Nobody cares about those movies. Rules of Engagement isn't bad. That's the one with Samuel Jackson.
And then Tommy Lee, right?
And Tommy Lee. It's fine. It's a fine movie, but it's forgettable at the same time. This movie is not forgettable.
Production budget $24 million. Box office total of $12.5 million. Yep. Currently holding a 23% on Rotten Tomatoes.
And I disagree. I'll tell you why I disagree with it being that low. Look, this is the same type of movies that is purely for fun and dumb entertainment. It's taking something that people love, which is wrestling, and taking probably the most prominent wrestling area, which is WCW, and bringing in everybody's favorite wrestlers, the only exception being Hulk Hogan. And really just turning this into a buddy comedy that kind of has a little bit of a heart of gold and not really too bad of acting. Like nobody hams it up too much. It's obviously not awful.
There's some hamming.
Well, okay.
There's some hamming.
It's still more fun than it is bad.
Well, see, that's what I would say right now. As we get to the movie, I would say the one thing that I really got out of this movie is that it is fun. It's a lot of fun, actually. So, and if this be my first time watching, if this be my very first time watching it, I had looked at it like it's a lot of fun. It honestly is. I remember being a kid when this movie came out and having no interest of going to the movies that weekend whatsoever. So, the fact is, I watched it. I dug it.
This movie kicks off. This movie kicks off with the introduction of both Scott Kane and David Arquette, who respectively play Gordy Boggs and Sean Dawkins. And they're in Lusk, Wyoming, which is kind of like the small town, which is how usually where wrestling fans are generally at. And they are in love with everything wrestling, and particularly their favorite wrestler, Jimmy the King, who is played, of course, wonderfully by Oliver Platt. And these guys are kind of like a failure to launch duo. You know, they have a job. Their job is technically to run a sewage truck, and you know they kind of there's a lot of like little gross things about this, and it's actually something that I love about this, because they do enough grossness to kind of be like, oh man, that's just gross, but at the same time they're not going overboard with it. You know what I mean?
Okay, so to agree with that, they don't go overboard with the gross. I mean, even though it's gross as fuck,
It is
disgusting.
because it's a sewage truck. Yes,
Right.
you're looking at a truck that is shit, literally.
But something that is so subtle, nowhere near as subtle as the truck crashing and shit gets everywhere, but it's subtle. Like they just got done doing a job, and so they're sitting on the truck eating lunch, and you seeing shit drip behind them. It's, oh god! And for something to be so subtle, it's gross. But at the same time, I see the comedy in it as well.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So
it's just that's just kind of like their own metaphor. Like, you know what? It's not that they're not ambitious. It's just, you know, they haven't really found what they wanted to do. For example, Gordy's family is an entire family of cops, and they are insanely like these are the type of people that you would see in Ferguson, Missouri, shooting black people. Like they are not the kind of cop that you absolutely want.
they literally
got her first
eat and
day.
they eat, sleep in their uniforms. They are 100% cops.
And the thing is that it's not that I'm sure they're fine people, you know, but it's like you kind of get like this, okay, guys, like you have no other interest, whereas the two guys are just huge into wrestling. You get certain little flashback things where, like, one of my favorite scenes in the movie, where Arquette goes and he's talking to the cashier, and the cashier's like, "That'll be $1.26." He's like, "I only got $1.25." He's all like, "Well, that's just not good enough."
That's Ahmed Zappa.
Jimmy the King boob, you know, and just like it's like this is so stupid, and then it turns into an entire wrestling match in there where they introduce Macho Man Randy Savage
R.I.P.
to come in and just lay it all down, and I love it. I'm eating it up at this point, because it's like Macho Man I grew up watching. I love Slim Jim. You know, everything about Macho Man was so cool in the late 80s and early 90s. So to kind of see him like take on something like this, you know, even if it's just a little bit, was just something that just it spoke to me. You know, it's like
this movie is ultimately, if you're a wrestling fan, especially a wrestling fan of that era of the Macho Mans, of the Goldbergs, you know, if that's your era, this movie's for you, because I openly admit I like wrestling. I was never a huge fan of it. I like certain things about it that did, you know, attract me, but I wasn't a huge fan. You know, Los was, my brother was. So this is right up his alley. Like he loved this, you know what I mean? But the fact is, as somebody who wasn't really into wrestling like that, I still got some really great enjoyment out of this movie. Like the scene that you just talked about. Number one, that's Ahmed Zappa, by the way.
Yeah,
as the clerk was talking that shit, and he's so funny in that scene. But it opens with them telling a story to these kids, and then the $1.25 thing happens, and I'm watching it like how you're watching it. I'm like, well, you know, you seen it before I did, but as a first time watching, I'm like, this is a awkward scene to play out. Then a full blown wrestling match happened. I'm like, what the fuck?
Of course.
What the hell?
David Arquette like slams his head into the freezer for no reason whatsoever.
For nothing.
I'm like, that is exactly what wrestling is. Wrestling is, it's not always logical. It's entertainment more than anything. So that night, it's supposed to go to WCW Nitro, and you get a couple of introductions to a couple of other characters, including one of my personal favorite actors, in Ellen Albertini Dow, who plays Mrs. McKinsey, and she's more prominent, obviously, in The Wedding Singer, but she's still like that, like crazy old woman that you're just like, oh yeah, no,
Crazy old grandma.
that's totally you. You also get the introduction to Jill Ritchie as Brittany, as well as Melanie Deanne Moore as Wendy, as the two girls that are kind of in the town. Brittany doesn't really care for the guys, but the others do. What I love about more than anything with this with this movie is the chemistry between Scott Kane and David Arquette, because it's genuinely like how you would act as teenagers, almost, with your friends. Like, yeah, you're gonna fuck with them a lot,
Right.
with everything. But at the end of the day, like, you're like, yeah, man, no, why don't you go ask her out? Yeah, man, I'm told I want to watch WCW Nitro with you, and do this. I don't know. I really, I've never considered either one of those two actors to be anything really special, but it was something really enjoyable to kind of watch, because it just reminds me of my own friends, where we're just fucking with each other like all the time, but at the same time, like, we genuinely care for the others.
Yeah. For me, I've enjoyed Scott Conn and a few other movies. I know he's the son of the great James Conn, but I remember Scott from Boiler Room. He's great in movies like Enemy of the State. He's awesome in. But he's always had that.
You weren't a big fan of his hip hop groups, the Hooligans, and the Alchemist?
No. No, but it is what it is. But I'm telling you, the ultimate surprise here with this movie was a movie that I had no interest in seeing whatsoever. I finally saw it, and I really, really enjoyed it.
Good.
Like so their chemistry is really what sells it for me, because I love Oliver Platt as well, and so when we finally get to see Jimmy King, it's like, I mean, cool. I don't buy you as a wrestler, but I always like you as a person, though. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, but
when it gets to Jimmy King, it's probably this movie kind of takes it up another level, because what essentially happens is Jimmy King is the undefeated wrestler of WCW, which is a little ridiculous, because Oliver Platt is not the guy that you would think would be the undefeated wrestler. Like, I'm looking at Goldberg, obviously. Diamond Dallas Page is in there. And
Booker T is in there.
As is right. Booker T is in there. And they do really great of showcasing everything that's going on in the ring, because the first match you actually get Billy Kidman versus Rey Mysterio unmasked, which I was like, okay, I totally forgot that was the thing. And kind of showing off that match, and then they show when they get to the main event, it's Diamond Dallas Page. You get a shot of Bill Goldberg, who at the time was probably the biggest WCW star at that current time. Like, he was huge. What winds up being really interesting in this is that you get Joe Pantaleone, and he's basically like the douchebag Vince McMahon of the group, right?
I'm like, wait, Joey Pants is the bad guy of this whole thing?
Oh, he is the bad guy. So he's just kind of like this scumbag that believes that I'm the reason why you're successful in the first place and whatnot, and basically sets to screw over Jimmy King, right? In a non-pay-per-view match, which is always a little weird. And that's exactly what happens. I love the shot as he's getting his ass kicked. Mind you, the fight is kind of going through. Like, the match starts off as a wrestling match, but then it like really turns into like an actual fight. When he smacks Diamond Dallas Page with the chair from out of nowhere, that shit looked like it really fucking hurt. He's just like, boom, and you're just hearing this dong, and Page is selling it, because he looks like he's unconscious from the minute they hits him. But of course, He gets screwed over. They do what's called a four-post massacre, which is all the wrestlers go up on all four posts and just dive into Jimmy King. He's bloodied up and all that, and afterwards, Gordy and Sean, as they're driving back, they have what I guess I will call the crash of fate, which is as they're dealing with allergies, which isn't true. They're crying because Jimmy King just lost. As they're going through all this, they have this like crash of fate where they crash this truck. Shit is spewed everywhere, right? And then
liquid doo-doo.
And then, ironically, like a toilet paper truck, which is currency nowadays, crashes into millions of dollars of currency just flying all over the place. Obviously, and they agree. They agree that, you know what? Instead of pursuing what we want to help make King once again world champion. And at first, it seems like this crazy idea, but eventually they agree because they got nothing better to do. Like the family is pushing Gordy to become a cop, and Sean's just kind of whatever, and these idiots just kind of go, and so they basically kind of find out. They actually get what's a guy's name in American Pie? It's Shermanator. It's
Sherman. Oh my God, Sherman.
Yeah, Shermanator from American Pie. They basically ask him where Jimmy King is, and they kind of expect him to find. They find him in this trailer park where he's dressed in drag.
Oh yeah,
trying to hide out from people because he can't afford to pay for anything.
He reminded me a lot of Depp in as Jack Sparrow. He had that thing where it was he had a drinking problem, obviously, but it was more so just the shame of being in the position that he was currently in. And so like when they finally get to him and they're fanboying out and all that, you get it, but then at the same time, he's looking to drink. He's looking to just drink and drink and drink. And his whole vibe reminded me a lot of the way Depp handled Jack Sparrow.
Right. So what I love also about it is like trying to find Jimmy King, the people that they start asking. First people they ask is Carolyn Rhea, who plays his estranged wife.
Caroline in the City.
Yep. And they find his son, who has the worst dentist job for braces I've ever
Love that scene. Love that, bro. Let me tell you something. When that's when that scene pops up and the kid shows his teeth the first time, I'm like, wait, whoa. But it's, oh my God, it's his reaction to it. I died laughing. He goes, I forgot the line, but he goes, I'm going to find him the best goddamn dentist.
He literally says, so, and that's later on in the movie, but he literally says, Jesus, look at that grill.
Look at that grill. We say, I want to pay off my debts. Come back and take care of you. Find him the best goddamn dentist.
Damn good dentist. I'm going to find him
best goddamn dentist boy that can buy.
They like meet his parents, and it's hilarious because the parents are telling the guys the story, and then Scott Kane goes and he goes they're like, first of all, they're like, Jimmy could have really been something. He could have been a doctor. And they both like look at each other. Well, ambulance driver at least. I'm like, thanks, because I used to be an ambulance driver. So I'm like, oh, thanks, guys. Thanks for lumping me in there. And then afterwards, Scott Kane's like, or Sean, he says, no, that's not true. According to Jimmy King's official biography, he put himself through school to become a working man. And he goes, and then after you two died in that plane crash, you two died in that plane crash. He worked 3 jobs just to support the family household. As you can tell, the guys are not exactly very smart. As they go and they basically encourage King, to do so, to kind of get back on this road. And it looked like they were getting ready to give up, but they basically say, we want you to get one last shot at Sinclair, and that's when King just decided to say, you know what, fuck it, like I got nothing better going on in my life. So they wake up the next day after King pours a beer all over the face. Wakey, wakey, hands off Snakey. and they decide to travel all the way to New York City, if I'm not mistaken.
New York. Yep.
And they go and Gordy begins to send letters back to his father because about everything that's kind of going on. That he's not willing to take the policeman test, which is obviously very frustrating for him. They make it to New York Arena, which, let's keep in mind is something. This trip started in Wyoming, and I think they were in Georgia when they went there. So they went to New York to basically do this. I don't know where they're getting this money from. They hide King in a porta potty, of course, because they're shit people. And they meet Rose McGowan, who is one of the Nitro girls. And I gotta tell you, the Nitro girls in this, it is unfair how gorgeous they are in this. Like,
all of them look good as hell.
I'm like, y'all are just like showing this. So the 10-year-old in me is, getting palpitations of the heart there, just like nearly dying. And what winds up happening is DDP mocks King on camera, which proceeds for King to come out and beat the shit out of him. Then beat the shit out of Sinclair before all the other WCW guys, goons, kind of come out of nowhere. So Sinclair declares an amazing match called the Triple Cage, with the winner taking home the WCW World Heavyweight belt and $1 million of prize money.
Mm-hmm.
If King loses, though, he never gets to wrestle again. Sasha, who is Rose McGowan, is obviously impressed with Gordy and goes to their apartment, which Gordy has clearly never been with a woman before.
Which was like, I get it for comedy's sake, why this would be possible. But at the same time, think about it. One of the Nitro girls came back to your place.
Right. But no, he's an idiot, of course. They've already determined these guys are not that smart. They recognize that foreign object. They recognize that King needs a trainer, and this is probably like my favorite introduction to like a character late into the story, with Martin Landau playing Sal Bandini.
Playing Sal, yeah.
The line that cracks me up though is right when they like open the door to like go into just the building. You're hearing screams from upstairs, and King's like, "What the hell is that, baby?" Like, he's still so dedicated to be himself. And they go and they go up there, and Bandini like whips the shit out of King. But then King goes and kicks him like right in the face, seemingly looking like he killed him. And he's like, poor old bastard tried to kill me. But he winds up being okay. And he's hired to be their trainer. He's later hospitalized by 2.
For the record, there's a lot of kicking in the nuts.
Oh, absolutely.
In this movie.
Oh yeah, a lot of kicking.
Like no nuts are safe at all in this movie.
This movie is dumb. I get that, but it's still funny. So, Bandini, after really training him, is later hospitalized from attack from Sid Vicious and Perry Saturn.
Mm-hmm.
And Gordy finds out that Sasha obviously has been spying on them for Titus and basically breaks up with her. They take King home to his wife's home where he delivers the famous line, "Dan, look at that grill." And basically
Okay, gotcha.
And basically tries to make amends with everything, and he vows to his wife that he's going to basically do the right thing. But they need to train more. With Bandini in the hospital, they need to figure out the best way to do so. So they go home to Wyoming. The father decides to basically kidnap his own son to force him to study for the police exam.
Pulls up in the squad car, makes him get in the car, and knows that.
Mm-hmm. And they try to convince Gordy to bust out, but he does refuse to do so, which is a little bit ironic. It's a little ironic because he was the one to convince King to continue wrestling. So to suddenly not do this, that's probably might cut that out, to be honest.
It was close being mine too, only because when they do come to the window to give him to bust out, like now you got King who's now pumped ready to do this, and you got him there, and they're trying to get you, to get out of your funk and let's go do what we got to go do. But he wouldn't move.
I know.
Which maybe in the course later on it plays out as to why he wouldn't move. But
right.
Still, I'm just like, that didn't take much convincing. You know what I'm saying? Like,
no, it didn't really feel right to the character. They decided to hold out tryouts because they need a posse, and starting with the Spitter, and then going with Fireman Fred, and finally Miss Kitty. My friends, they call me Miss Kitty. The king's like, what's she gonna do? Boob him to death? And as they make their way back to where they're basically supposed to go, Sean and Wendy wind up actually hooking up and that one's a little bit disbelievable as well, because it's like there was like one throwaway line, but then I guess Sean over the time was like, you know what, this girl's always been there for me, so let's hook up. And I guess it's fine. It's a little not believable. So they make it to the WCW pay-per-view event. King is obviously initially alone, but he gets his ass kicked by DDP and his goons, starting with his own son. And he starts out actually doing really well, but then obviously things kind of I got to talk about this triple cage because this shit is insane. It's literally
the way it's set up is
top of a cage stacked on top of a cage.
It's crazy as shit the way it's set up.
And there's like random shit that's thrown in there, ladders, crutches, everything. And I'm like, oh, somebody's about to die. And
somebody's gonna die in here. No, somebody's gonna die in here today. That I can guarantee.
So, but luckily, to save his ass, Goldberg, which, by the way, you get a very quick scene early on with Goldberg in the weight training room, basically saying, "Yeah, guys, I used to be a big fan of Jimmy King, also, but after he did some screwed up shit to me, wasn't really a fan anymore." So for him to come back out is kind of nice. But in that scene, you also actually get the first ever appearance of John Cena ever as just an actor, person, whatever you want to call him. So I always thought that was a little interesting. But Goldberg, Booker T, Billy Kidman, and Disco Inferno basically come to his aid, which I don't know why they brought Disco Inferno, because all he does is get his ass kicked most of the time, which is what was shown on screen anyway. They aren't able to get into the cage until Gordy shows up in full police attire and runs the cage down through with his motorcycle. And then they proceed to beat the shit out of everybody. And I admit, it was kind of a little bit of a badass scene, but it was still like it was still a little not believable. So,
well, I felt like it wasn't believable because you almost expect Gordy to show up at this moment.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because once Goldberg is there, Booker T is there, but they can't get in. Oh yeah, this is your perfect. This is your Gordy moment. He comes. I don't know he would bust down the entire thing with a motorcycle, but
Right. It was, I don't know, it was a little hilarious. So they go and basically they deal with DDP's posse, and while beating them, King and DDP climb up the cage, basically get this belt. And this is kind of going like back and forth between the two of them. At one point, it looked like DDP hit him off of this of the top of the cage and looked like he would win. And Sting, of course, comes flying out of nowhere, another famous WCW wrestler, and basically knocks him off as well. As they climb back up, they're wrestling fourth, and King goes and basically finds the mustard to pick up DDP into an actual suplex and drive him through the top of the top cell, down through the second floor, and ending
to the bottom.
That. And I'm like, oh, he's dead. Like that's just brutal. There's no way DDP should have survived that. I'm like, his back is broken. He is never wrestling ever again. He just flew like 60 feet through two cages and onto a mat. That hurts.
That hurts. But it looks so badass though. What happened?
It does. After this, King obviously retrieves the belt and is once again champion, and he wins the $1 million. Sinclair is then booed by the fans and is basically beaten the shit out from Shawn and Gordy as they throw him into whatever. So
I'm quite sure the fans definitely killed him.
Right. So afterwards, Goldberg asked King if they wish to reteam, but the new champ obviously has new partners. As he says, my new partners will be Gordy as the enforcer, and Sean Sugar Daddy Dawkins as the manager. In the epilogue, Sean is basically telling these kids that you meet at the very beginning of the film that dreams can come true, and when they don't believe him, Gordy and Goldberg teach this clerk a lesson. Teach Ahmed Zappa a lesson by throwing him out of the store, which I'm like, okay, that's assault. This is not a match. For being mean to the kids. And they basically all ride together in this huge stretch limo that's driven by one of the Asian Nitro girls, Shay, who is easily the hottest one of them, together with Sal, who's fully recovered and probably naked in this hot tub at the end. The end credits are fun too, because it's just end credits of groin hits over and over and over and over again.
There's a lot of kicking of those balls in this movie.
And that's right.
So that's Ready to Rumble. Once again, I really enjoyed it for what it is. Obviously, with your explanations, you've seen this movie a number of times, so I'm gonna go ahead and let you get that off there. Takeaways. Who's gonna get that guy award?
It's actually going to go to Jimmy King. I understand that the brothers are the catalyst to all this, but it really did become a redemption story for King as much as he possibly could. It really felt like he kind of found himself. He's also the funniest character. Like the way Oliver Platt just plays like this Southern hillbilly who's also equally charming is kind of like it's exactly how I always picture like those Southern charlatans. It's like how dare you, sir? Like almost in that fashion. So yeah, Jimmy King.
And that chick award.
This is a little bit difficult because really the only prominent chick in there is Rose McGowan, right? I guess I will give it to Wendy, although there's not a lot to her. She just really likes Sean. But to be fair, she waited. You know, it wasn't like she was like looking for other guys, and and she really did look like she actually liked the guy a lot. So, Wendy.
This full award.
I'll give it to Titus Sinclair. Like, you're a corporate head that believes that you're worth more than you actually are. You know, you've built a very successful brand, and people should see that and respect you for that. But dude, you're still just a goon who doesn't realize that it's kind of like it's how Dana White is. He's basically Dana White. You know, Dana White just believes that because it's UFC and because I'm tied to it, that this is going to be a successful product. And it's like, no. You still got to do more for that. And you should be grateful for the people to take the opportunity. And yes, you should take the larger portion of the share, but, you know, you should also, you know, be understandable that these guys are literally putting their hearts and bodies on the line here. So, Titus Sinclair.
All right, and cut that up.
Is there really a scene that I would cut out? No. I think the movie is fine just the way it is. It's an hour and 40 minutes. It does kind of flow really well for an hour and 40 minutes. So it doesn't really have an editing problem per se. Is there some weirdness to it? Sure, but this movie is harmless at the end of the day. It's as harmless as it gets. Nothing really overly creepy about it. You know, there's nothing that I don't think a kid couldn't watch and be like, oh yeah, no, that makes maybe a sex scene, but there's a lot worse sex scenes than what was shown there. You know, so no, I wouldn't cut anything out.
Iconic scene.
The moment that King gets the championship, because it was like the culmination of everything that the last few weeks he was really working for. You know, and it was, he said a line in there. He said, King, who are you doing this for? And he said the right answer. I'm doing it for me. I'm not really doing it for anybody else. Like yes, I have my promises to people, but I have to prove to myself that I'm worthy of this championship to really obtain it once again. So yeah, go to King. My guy,
that guy award. I would. I want to give it to Gordy, but at the same time, I prefer Sean a little bit more over Gordy. Sean is a dude that really has no purpose, but at the same time, he does what he does. And I love how Scott Conn portrayed him as, you know, being a bit, not so much the straight man, but more so the, all right, well, I'm going to handle this on the back end, and you do what you do to get, you know, Jimmy King riled up and yada, yada, yada. So you're wild, I'm relaxed. And so, and then he kept it real, you know, when it came to the chick at the burger joint, even though I didn't care really about neither chick, but the fact is that she the one who showed him more interest. So when it got time for him to, you know, get on, or when he got on rather, he went with the one that showed him interest as opposed to one that treated him like shit.
Right.
So smart guy.
That chick award. So is that going to go to the chick that showed interest?
I guess so, yeah, because you would think the only prominent chick in there is Rose McGowan, but you don't like her character. So, yeah, it'll go to that particular chick. You said her name was Brandy? Wendy, yeah. So I'll give it to her.
All right. That Fool award.
Easily Joey Pants. Why are you in this movie? Oh, my God. Like, when I think the villain or a twisted Vince McMahon style of a villain for a movie like Ready to Rumble, the first person that does not come to my brain is Joey Pants. and I mean at all. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, at all. So, and the fact that he had this vendetta against Jimmy King that kind of goes beyond wrestling. You know what I'm saying? He just wants to see him in. So you come up with these concepts where, you know, you threaten Sting talking about, if you don't do this, I'll fucking kill you. Like, well, every dude in here will kill you.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But yeah, this personal vendetta against Jimmy King, which I never understood that. So yeah.
And cut that out.
I'm gonna go with the scene when they come to Gordy's house to convince him to take the trip, even though his dad pretty much broke his spirit. Because I feel like Gordy was already strong-willed and determined from the jump, and his dad was like the one thing that kind of he couldn't get over. But at the same time, like your dad has two other children who are both police officers. I think he'll be all right till you get on him. You know what I mean?
An iconic scene.
Iconic scene, I would say, would be the when King gets the championship back. But really, honestly, the iconic scene for me is going to be the scene when they have the Ahmed Zappa fight, and all of a sudden the store turns into a whole wrestling ring.
Right.
Because the first time seeing that, it bugs you up like, fuck, like, what is this? Right? So for me, yeah, iconic scene would be they have the back and forth with the Dow 25 and your Dow 26, and then all of a sudden the entire story becomes a ring. You know what I'm saying? I love that.
Very cool. All right, let's get into some quick hits. I do
All right.
want to speak on one thing with this, because the publicity of this thing, the publicity of this movie was a little bit controversial for wrestling fans, because they basically ran a storyline with David Arquette, who is a legitimate wrestling fan, and wound up he became WCW World Champion, and it was hated by everybody, including myself, because it's like, okay, this feels, you just cheapened it. Like you got people that are busting their ass off for this, and this actor comes along and basically comes in and just gets it. Even Arquette, like later on, Arquette later on would say he did believe it was a bad idea, as he thought it would damage like what the value of the belt that he held in such high regard. It just didn't really make sense. I don't know.
It did not. Eventually, it becomes you're going too far now.
However, I do have to give some props to Arquette here, because he later donated all the money that WCW paid him to the families of the late Brian Pillman, Brian Hildebrand, and paralyzed wrestler Darren Drozdov. So at least whatever money that he basically made for this little promotion, he really decided not to keep it. He was like, no, I can't see myself as a fan of this to be that. So kudos to Arquette. It was a bad idea, but it still wound up working in their favor. You know, at least for some people.
Here's one. Martin Landau replaced Jack Palance as Sal Bandini,
which was a very good move.
Which is a great move, but at the same time, when you really think about it, I want to see Jack Palance in that role. Wow, what would he do with that role? I also got this is WWE superstar John Cena's first appearance in a movie, although he had no speaking part.
Right. Oliver Platt, and they actually show this in the outtakes. He actually punched Randy Savage in the face on accident during the filming, and you could legitimately see like the fear that he had there, because Randy was a big dude. Like this is not a dude you just punch in the face for no reason.
And if you watch the blooper, Platt really does like give a good healthy swing.
Oh yeah, no, it was solid. The scenario Jimmy King basically getting screwed over by Titus Sinclair is actually based on a real life issue between Eric Bischoff and Ric Flair. During April 1998, Flair was fired from WCW for allegedly no-showing the taping of an April 16th edition of WCW Thunder. By the end of the year, Flair was back in WCW after filing a lawsuit against him, which again, is weird. The character of Natural Girl Sasha is based on Kimberly Page.
That was mine. No, that was what I was just going to read to.
Oops, I'm sorry. Do you have any others?
Nope, go ahead. Wrap it on up.
All right. The WCW heavyweight title used in the movie is completely opposite to the actual title color-wise. The real belt was gold with silver inlays on a black leather strap, originally brown, but after years of use and being soaked in sweat, turned into a darker color. The belt in the movie was mostly silver with some gold detailing. For example, the area that says World Heavyweight Championship has a gold-black backing with silver lining, where the original has gold letters. And finally, and this is where it's a little weird. While Arquette and Rose McGowan were love interests in this film, they previously played siblings in the movie Scream.
Clippy. Very, very clippy. Well, that is the show, you guys. Our second BTTC quarantine edition. I think it's turning out pretty well. What do you think?
Yeah, no, it's going all right.
Yeah. Dave, Danger Neff, where can they find you?
You can always find me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at David Danger Neff. Apparently now I really need to start gaining some followers now that BTTC podcast has more followers than me. So hit me up on your Instagrams and I'll make sure to follow if you follow me back. I definitely want to beat my own page at that. I'm the co-host here at Back to the Classics. I'm very proud to be doing this with my guy Jay Alonso, even though it's been weeks now that I've seen him. Thank you so much once again to everybody that is listening in or watching this wherever you are. And thank you once again to our first responders for trying to keep our city safe, unlike a certain Caroline Goodman. Yeah,
I mean, let them go back outside. They want to go play.
We're just all test subjects in this.
People need to get back to work. Am I going to the casino? I got a family. I'm not stupid.
Yep, that pretty much settles that. So yeah, that's gonna do it for me. My guy Jay Alonso, where can they find you?
You can find me on all the social media simply at I am Jay Alonso. That's Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and Twitter. You talk to me and I'm talking back. Okay, all right. The Facebook group, Back to the Classics, the Moose Heart group is up and popping. Go ahead, jump in there and join the conversation, as well as Spoiling the Classics. Also, jump in there and join the conversation. You can follow us on Instagram at BTTC Podcast. And, of course, our other show, Turn My Mic Up, the Hip Hop Show. It should be back hopefully next Friday. We're still working that out. And also, don't forget, 2 Minute Drill Live is on the way. Look out for that announcement. I believe today, as a matter of fact. By the time we get done with this,
we should be dropping that soon.
Yeah. So, with that being said, we will be back next week with another one. Thanks for hanging out with us, man. See y'all next week. This is Back to Classics. I am Jay Alonso. With me, of course, is
Danger Neff.
We'll see you next week.
Peace.